Welcome back to Cabin View Ventures. So I started picking away at that big pile of logs out front. Really nice load of logs that I got. That all came from a local sawmill. So it's all good hardwoods. You can tell it's been sitting around for a while. So I think that's gonna season pretty quick. My plan or my hopes are to get all of that cut up by the end of May. So it's got 6 to 7 months to season properly. I've got plenty of wood to get me through until then. And then if that works out the way I think it will, we're gonna be set up pretty well going into winter and next spring and summer. So the topic for today, I wanna do a 1-year review on the Hustler Fastrak. I bought this zero turn exactly 1 year ago. It's the very first zero turn I ever bought. I absolutely did not need it, but I always wanted one. Previously, I was mowing with a Husqvarna garden tractor, the TS 354 XD to be exact. That was a great garden tractor, mowed very well, did whatever I needed it to around the property, pulling a cart. So really happy with that garden tractor, but I always had that itch for a zero turn. So I decided to pull the trigger last year. This Hustler Fastrak is one of the better value zero turns on the market. These sell for right around $8,000, give or take a little, depending on rebates and the dealer that you run into. So I want to go over some of my likes, my dislikes, what issues that I have with this in the first year, and was it worth the money? We're going to get into all of that today, but first, let's do a little mowing. All right, so what makes this Hustler Fastrak such a good value for the money? And there's lots of zero turns out there that are great values. This is just one of them. So for me, those few items come down to number one, build quality. You know, this seems like a very well-built machine. It's got nice clean welds on it. And welds are one of the main things I look at when I'm looking for build quality. You know, what type of material did they use, the thickness of that material, and does it have clean welds on it? Because if it has sloppy welds, it's probably not a well-built machine. So this appears to have good build quality. The deck, it has a really nice 10 gauge fabricated deck, has a good engine, has good transaxles. So let's walk around and check that stuff out. All right, let's start off with the deck. You've got a really nice 10 gauge fabricated deck. I put that quick shoot on, which they're really nice to have when you're mowing around the house, around the cars. You've got your 3 scalping wheels in the front, anti-scalping wheels in the front. And then this has the 54-inch deck on it. You can also get it with the 48 or 60-inch deck. The 54 and 60-inch deck come with a wider rear track, which is very important. We're going to get into that in a little bit. You've got one of the higher series Kawasaki engines, the FT691V. It's a 22 horsepower engine. I know it doesn't sound like a lot, but I'm telling you, this thing has plenty of power. I am up and down all my steep hills with absolutely no problem. Full throttle, deck on. You know, this thing's got power to go anywhere and do anything. So it must be a very torquey engine. Now the FT series, there's about 4 main series of Kawasaki engines. They start off with the FR, you go up to the FS, then the FT, then the FX. The FR is strictly residential. The FS is like their medium duty. The FT is their heavy duty. And then the FX is their full commercial line. So this thing is plenty. If you're mowing even multiple times a week, hilly properties, big acreage, this motor is going to be able to handle that no problem. Your transaxle, you have the Hydro Gear ZT 3200s, which are a really nice upgrade. They are kind of your entry line into the commercial world. Now, most commercial mowers are going to start off with the ZT 3400s. You know, most of your residential mowers are going to stop at the ZT 2800s. So that ZT 3200 is kind of a nice middleman for, you know, this price point. All right, my likes, my dislikes, what broke in the first year. So I only had 2 minor issues. One of them was the right side control lever became a little bit loose on me. Never enough that I couldn't mow. But it was an issue that I had to get fixed. And I actually read about that before I bought this machine, and it is 100% true. So I don't know if it happens to all of them, but I had that issue, and it seems to be a pretty common one. The other minor thing I had was a small oil leak. It was right down here where the drain tube connects into the engine. I got a little bit of pulling down there. It never leaked enough where I had to add oil to it. I kept tabs on it. This was like late summer going into the fall. And then over the winter time, I took this into the dealership, got those 2 things fixed on it, got it serviced, good to go. Those are the only 2 minor things that happened to this. As far as dislikes, I have 2 minor ones. So the tires, for one thing, this has the Armstrong Big Bite tires on it. There's a view of the tread pattern. They're not a very common size. These are a 23-inch by 11 on a 10-inch wheel. My garden tractor had a similar pattern to the Grassmasters, and I never got stuck anywhere on my property with them. This, I've been stuck a few places, so I have not been real happy with the grip of these tires, but a replacement I think would fix that. This machine has pretty good weight to it. It's a little over 900 pounds. So, you know, we should be able to, with the right tire on it, have much better traction. The other thing is the fuel gauge. You've got 2 tanks. They're about 4 gallons total each. But these things bounce around. The needle bounces around when it's running, and you cannot tell where you are on your fuel gauge. So not a big deal. You just have to make sure you've got your tanks topped off enough for, you know, how much mowing you're going to do. I know on my property, I've got about an acre that I mow, and I usually use a little over a quarter, somewhere between a quarter and a half tank. Now my hills probably consume quite a bit of that, but you know, I know that I can get through about, you know, 2 mows on 1 tank. All right, so that covers the things that broke. My 2 minor dislikes. Now, what about my likes? I really like this machine. It has been reliable. I've got 27.1 hours on it, so not a ton of hours. I really wouldn't expect to have any issues or many issues in that time frame, but it seems to be holding up well. It looks great. It mows great. It's a lot more fun to mow on. You know, towards the end of the mowing season, I don't get that dread of having to go out and mow. You know, this thing it's fast, it's fun, and definitely glad that I purchased this over using the garden tractor. Now, like I mentioned earlier with the track width, that is one of the main reasons I picked this machine over some of the other ones. So this has about a 51-inch rear tread width. It sits nice and low, and you've got the roll bar. So when I first started shopping for a zero turn, I was really looking for something in that $5,000 range, more of a residential zero turn mower. But when I saw this, something clicked in my head, and I said, I bet you that is going to be a lot safer, especially on my hills. If I just had a flat property that was 1 acre, I absolutely would not need this machine. But with the hills I'm on, having that lower, wider stance and the roll bar make a huge difference in safety. So any of you guys that have hills, guys or girls that have, you know, hills that you mow, you know what I'm talking about. It takes a little while to get used to them on any new machine, but after a couple times, you know, I figured it out pretty quick, and now I can mow them much faster and much safer. All right, I think that's going to about wrap things up for today. So thanks for joining me. When I bought this a year ago, I did a full walk around video. I went over more of the specs of it. I'll put a link to that at the end of this video. That'll be a good one to watch if you are in the market for a Hustler Fastrak. So, all right guys, thanks again, and I will see you on the next one.